The big story we're tracking this morning, a hostage crisis unfolding in Sydney, Australia. An undisclosed number of people are being held hostage by one or two gunmen inside a cafe in Sydney's central business district. The hostages can be seen facing the glass windows, their hands pressed against the glass. Some of them are being made to hold up a black flag with Arabic text. The New South Wales police addressed the press a short while back saying they're not sure what the flag stands for and what exactly they're dealing with. The pictures on your screens are also of that one armed gunman who is inside that cafe. We're not sure whether he is an individual who has planned this or if he's working as a part of an organization. The police still not sure whether there's one gunman who's inside the cafe or there are two people who are holding these an undisclosed number of people hostage. Several hundreds of armed policemen have surrounded this cafe in Sydney's central business district. SWAT teams are also there on the ground. They've been deployed. It's Christmas time, people in holiday mood. Lots of people had been going to the cafe to buy chocolates early this morning. We also spoke to people on the ground who said they visited the cafe in the morning or were planning to visit this area. Now, to take you through the exact location of this cafe where this hostage crisis is unfolding, it's right in the center of Sydney's business district. It's close to the Reserve Bank of Australia. Important offices like the office of the Indian Consulate, the Indian Consulate General and the Australian Consulate General are barely 2 to 3 blocks away, which means barely 300 meters away from this cafe. This is a prime business district of Sydney. There's heavy deployment of police. Authorities still don't know what exactly they're dealing with. If the person who's been circled on your screens, whether he is an individual, whether this is a lone incident, or he's working as part of a bigger network. The flags that hostages are being made to hold up, the black flags with Arabic text, have raised a few alarms, but neither the police nor the administration has given any clarity on that. They're saying that they're trying to talk to experts to figure out whether there is a terror organization at work or this is merely an isolated criminal incident. In our studios, we have with us our Deputy Editor Smita Sharma, who's been taking us through developments on the ground. Smita, as you were telling us, it's a fluid situation, rapidly developing. SWAT teams on the ground. The entire business district has been surrounded with policemen in uniform. The airspace over Sydney has been sealed off. Roads leading to this area have also been cut off. But what's worrying at this point is that the police hasn't been able to establish any direct contact with the armed offender.
Clearly, Simi, and my completely thoughts, of course, with the families of those who have been taken in hostage right now. For sure, it will be very, very difficult to translate into words what those families must be undergoing, because at this point in time, we really do not know the identity of the people who have been taken hostage here. We do not know about the nationalities. Are there foreign nationals as well? There could be locals, of course, from Sydney, or people who have come in from other parts of the country, from Melbourne or other cities, of course, because this is the business district. So people have been working here, they come here to earn a living. So, but clearly negotiations which have not begun, because the police, as they mentioned, they have not been able to establish direct contact with the armed offender. But what we are also learning is there are reports that suggest that Muslim organizations in the city, in fact, have come forward and they have told the NSW police that they would be willing to mediate if required, because remember, this person here in concern, whom the police are still not calling a terrorist, they're calling an armed offender. They're sticking to protocol in a way. So these Muslim organizations have suggested that they be allowed to mediate if required, to be able to talk to this person, because he's seen holding up that black flag with a white Arabic text which says that there is no God and a prophet is his messenger. So as of now, the only saving grace, of course, that so far we know that there are no gunshots that have been fired and no lives that have been taken yet. But in this kind of a situation, so long as people remain in hostage, we know that they cannot be considered safe at all.
Absolutely. Thankfully, no casualties as yet. No one's been injured, but no communication as yet with that armed gunman. Neither of the police received any kind of communication from anyone else. They've at least not briefed the media if they have received any communication. Smita, can you also take us through the exact location of this cafe? We're talking about Sydney. We're talking about the central business district in the city. And we also heard a presser from the Victoria Police a short while back. Of course, other cities also being put on high alert.
Sivi, this is like a coastline area. Of course, Sydney is very pretty. It almost reminds you of New York because it runs in parallel and perpendicular lanes in a lot of way. And it's not very densely populated, though, of course, this does happen to be the business financial hub. The Sydney Opera House there, as we are trying to show in through the graphics on your screens, is clearly very close to it. In fact, there were also reports that the Opera House was also under siege. It was evacuated, but then, of course, there were those reports that the Opera House was declared as safe. And Tony Abbott, the Prime Minister, they're trying to make a point that all the people in Sydney, they should go around their business as normal. They should not let this incident affect their daily routine at the moment. This is an area where you see the adjoining streets are, in and around Martin Place. There are also the Macquarie Street. There is the train station, which has been shut down. All the nearby buildings, in fact, they were evacuated. There is that big Australian bank as well in the vicinity. They had also moved in around 50 of their staff to another building to operate upon. The consulates are located very nearby. The Indian consulate just a couple of meters away. The US consulate, all these consulates were evacuated and their staff taken to safer locations. And police had, of course, to issue that advisory that anybody who was in the area but not inside the cafe, they should be they would be allowed to leave, and they should really leave. And if there are people in the adjoining buildings, they should stay away from open windows and remain indoors. Simi?
Absolutely. This is a VIP area of sorts, if we could compare it to the Indian scenario. It's close to the Reserve Bank of Australia. There are consulates which are next door. In fact, we spoke to the Indian Consul General a short while back, who told us that the Indian consulate has shut down its office and asked all officers to go back home. Let's listen into that reaction.
Well, as the Prime Minister of Australia just mentioned, it's still an unfolding situation. Details are still being ascertained. But what I can tell you is that all the officials of the Consulate General of India, they are safe. As soon as we were a little certain about details, we closed down our embassy, our consulate here in Sydney, and asked people to go to their homes. Well, this place is about 300 to 400 meters from the consulate, and it is sometimes frequented because this is a very, it's the hub of the CBD area of Sydney. So very often we, our colleagues, myself, we do go to this cafe and entertain our interlocutors here, meet our friends here. And this is also very close to the Reserve Bank of Australia and also the US consulate. So it's a very happening, very lively place.
It's a season and where tourists and Sydney attract lots of tourists and lots of the business, that's the central business district. And it's not only mine, like we are like the Sri Lankan Consulate General's office as well as the Indian Consulate General's office. We are 4 blocks away. We pass that way, even though we cannot see Martin Place, but we do pass that way to go to work.
So you're basically telling us, Mr. Shekhar, that this is a high security place.
No, I wouldn't know. See, Sydney is, I would say, it's a very free place. It attracts like, millions of tourists. So, and people do move about very freely because this is a cafe, which with like Sri Lanka, we have suffered terrorism for 30 years, and these terrorists have no heart. They would have us or take hostage anybody. So this is really what is happening. This is where the terrorism anywhere, this is the world we really have to end terrorism. This is what happened to us. Our airports were attacked, innocent people were arrested. This is the same thing which terrorists are doing everywhere.
Look, it started at around 9 o'clock when people were about to go into the office, and there were reports of some hostage situation developing, but nobody knew at that stage that it's going to be perhaps a terror-related incident with the Arabic flag or the Islamic flag being displayed by 2 people inside there. This is the financial hub of Sydney, the financial district, the epicenter, just like a Nariman Point in Mumbai, and most of the people work in this area. Almost all the buildings there have been evacuated. Nobody is allowed to go into this place, Martin Place, and I believe people who are there are still there, but have been asked to leave the offices. The trains have been shut down in that area, and the buses have also stopped.
Right, this entire area has been sealed off. We're also getting in reactions from world leaders. In fact, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, they are tweeting the incident in Sydney is disturbing, saying such acts are inhuman and deeply unfortunate. Smita, of course, there are global concerns as well. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, they're tweeting, saying he's concerned about the people who are trapped inside that cafe in Sydney. This is a story which will be watched world over, because Sydney is not the kind of city where you would expect something like this to happen. And this is the business district. This is the heart of Sydney, a place which is also frequented by tourists of all countries.
Absolutely, Simi. These are really cosmopolitan cities which are considered a melting pot of sorts of cultures as well. And when you look at Melbourne, when you look at Sydney, the highest number of students who study in Australia really are of Chinese origin. Following it up are, of course, the Indian origin students. The Indian origin community, in fact, is a very strong community in Australia. We got a glimpse of that when Narendra Modi was recently in Australia for, of course, that G20 summit in Brisbane. He had a 4-city stop in Australia. He did go to Sydney as well. He went to Melbourne and Canberra as well. There was that Mahatma Gandhi statue that was unveiled in Sydney, and clearly the Indian community had turned up in such good and high numbers. So, and Narendra Modi has very good relations, of course, with Tony Abbott, somebody who calls a brother, the Australian Prime Minister. Clearly, this is a story that will, of course, resonate across the globe. We saw the Canadian PM, Stephen Harper. In fact, he was one of the first world leaders to tweet out saying that Canada's thoughts and prayers are with our Australian friends. So, it's a place, it's more to do with psychology. If indeed this is a terror organization, if this indeed is a terror attack, as the New South Wales police are indicating that they are now, in fact, moving the footing up as far as the operations are concerned, then clearly, it strikes at the business district, like in the case of Mumbai. When you strike at the financial capital of a country, there are much more psychological implications as well, that you're trying to break the economy of that country as well. But unless this is a lone wolf freak radical case, we'll have to wait and watch as to how it really unfolds.
Smita, coming as this does, the incident 9 days ahead of Christmas, really spoiling the mood on the ground. Everyone was almost in holiday mood, as we've been hearing from people on the ground, saying they didn't really expect this to happen, considering that holidays were to start in about a couple of days from now. It's basically the psychological effect of this kind of thing happening in the heart of a business district that is really a source of worry.
Really, Simi, and this is the feeling that, when terror comes home, it's just in your backyard, that something could strike you so close home. That is the feeling that really scares you out. We saw those people reacting out there, some emotional moments to a woman who was emotionally, in a state of a breakdown. Also, some Indian origin people as well who were coming and saying that, these are times of Christmas festivities. In Australia, if we see really, a city like Sydney, despite being the financial hub, it's not a city where you see security barricades, at every stop. You don't see police stations too many security checks happening. It is a free city. So clearly these things do have an impact. Then when you wake up, this morning when I woke up, it was like 6 o'clock here, India time. It was almost 9:44, the Australian local time, when all of this incident started really. It just hits you that, this has come so close, and suddenly this could strike you as well. So there is that psychological impact, something which in fact the Australian PM is trying to address here by asking the people to go about their daily business as if, this is not a major incident, and this is something that the police and other officials, the SWAT teams, can really contain at the moment, Simi.